Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's chat. We are celebrating the end of month 10 of the Lady Darby Read-Along and book number 8, A Stroke of Malice. Kind of appropriate for the time of year, isn't it? last Thursday, it looked quite a lot like that here at our house. Very snowy. So I'm going to just check and make sure we are live. It looks like we are. Yes, we are. Good. So please feel free to jump in and chime in and post your comments and your questions. Let me know what you want me to talk about. I'm happy to cover basically anything from A Stroke of Malice or any of the previous Lady Darby books. And then next month, obviously, we're moving on, getting close to book 10. So first up, I have some questions off of the read along group on Facebook. It's still not too late to join in. I will post the link below in the comments after tonight's event if you want to join us over on that page. The first question I had was, any matchmaking plans for Trevor? I feel like he needs someone. Yes, I would love to find a match for Trevor. I kind of toyed with it a little bit in An Artless Demise. And then obviously some things happen. But yes, I would like to do that. I've got to find the right match. I'm kind of thinking Alana, being a big sister, is going to stick her nose into matters here maybe soon, thinking her brother needs some help. So we'll see how that plays out. Yes, I would like to do that. It's just where in the series I can work it in. I know where I'm going with the next couple books, so we'll see. It is definitely in the mix. Then I had a question about, could you explain franking the mail in this period? Gage asks Philip to frank some missives about Helmwick's whereabouts and mentions that the Duke's seal might scare Helmswick away. Was franking simply what everyone called sending a letter, or was franking an aristocratic term perk? Okay, so in this time period, when you sent a letter through the mail, there was no postage stamps. Those did not come into didn't start being used until I think like 1840. So the sender didn't pay. It was the receiver who had to pay to receive that letter. So one of the perks of being a nobleman was that you could frank a letter, meaning stamp it with your seal, and then it would be no charge to mail it. It was done that way. It was a privilege of rank, but also because they were in the House of Lords, they were members of Parliament. They were doing the business of the country, and so it was kind of a perk of all that. The fact that they were taking on all those civic duties, so that they didn't have to pay to mail those letters and official things. So franking is actually stamping it with their seal, but it makes it so that whoever receives it doesn't have to pay to receive the letter. It's free. So that makes sense. Your description of the pigeonholed bookcases. Oh, yes. Okay. So in Hislop's domain, he's got all those little pigeonholes and stuff. That actually came from, so Son-in-Law's castle, the Duke and Duchess of Beaumont's home, where the action of this book takes place, is actually heavily based off of Belvoir Castle in England. I read a book about it, and I found some wonderful diagrams and pictures. And so I used a lot of the interior of that castle for the model for Son-in-Law's, making some adjustments. And one of the places was Hislop's domain. I basically just based it off of those, and they did have those shelves with all the little cubbies, and just like you think of like a post office in old small villages, post offices used to be like you would see on Little House on the Prairie and shows like that. I doubt the little villages are like that anymore, but yeah, they used to be like that. So could you explain the term criminal conversation? Okay, yes, this comes up with the conversation about Marsdale and Eleanor having the affair, and if Helmswick found out. Do you believe he would have taken her before the House of Lords and tried to divorce her, or sued Marsdale for criminal conversation with his wife? So criminal conversation was, in this time period, divorce was extremely rare. what was more likely to happen was that a husband would bring their wife's lover to court for criminal conversation, which was basically that they were having physical relations with their wife. And so they would be getting damages for them doing that. It was like suing them. So that's basically what it was. And it was scandalous, obviously, and horribly scandalous for the wife. And sadly, the reverse did not very often happen. Men were often unfaithful, but women did not have the same rights to bring them up on those charges and divorce them and all that stuff. So yeah, it was a purely basically male thing, and most often by aristocratic, upper class, wealthy men that did this. So yeah. So that's what that is. You can read up all about it if you want. There's some trials that are super interesting, especially in the 19th century, that come up about this subject, and the 18th century. So yeah, Trevor's humor is fun too. I love Trevor. I would like to work Trevor in more. He is a lot of fun. I haven't got to do a lot in the last couple of books with him, so I'm hoping soon. So just a reminder, you can go ahead and post your comments and questions. I'm going to keep going with these, and then I'm going to jump over and see what else you'd like to know. Marsdale, yes, he played a big part in this book. And yeah, his bachelor days, it seems, are over. And so he's definitely the irreverent rake, and he's been so much fun to write. But it was also a lot of fun to basically, we get to see somewhat why he is who he is. I'm going to explore that more. I hope to explore that more in a future book, his relationship with his father and all that and everything that happened. But also we get to see what set him down this path where he's been basically just hell raking, and he still always loved Eleanor. And so it's kind of fun to see. I enjoyed giving him his comeuppance a little bit on that. So, and trying to figure out, it's hard in that situation that they're in. They've done this all to themselves, but so there's the happy ending isn't the happy ending that maybe you would hope for, but that wasn't realistic either. I mean, they reaped what they sowed, and they got themselves in this situation. And, Eleanor didn't have to rush into marriage, and Marsdale didn't have to behave like he did. And anyway, all these things. So, but I'm hoping to give them a happily enough ever after, although, how is her son going to feel about this later? That he's lost his inheritance, or, well, I guess he doesn't lose his inheritance. I mean, but yeah, just all these things, so lots to think about. So let's see. Yeah, I love the Duke and Duchess's family. So Lord Henry appeared in A Study in Death, and I just loved his character. He was in a really small scene, really, but he just kept sticking with me. And I was like, I'd really like to come back to him and do something with him. And I actually thought maybe I would do some kind of spinoff with him and his family that I had kind of established. But then the Duchess crept into an artless demise, and then she invited him to this house party. And so then I was like, okay, this could be fun. Let's explore this whole family. And yeah, I'd love to do some more with them. And obviously Lord Henry's going to be around for a while. So they were a lot of fun, and getting to do their diverse personalities and where do they come from, and who are they really, and what's nature nurture and all that. So yeah, maybe some of the other fathers, who they are, will come out later. We'll see. Yeah, the Duchess. I don't know. Knowing Kira, she probably will forgive the Duchess eventually. I don't want to say too much without giving anything away of plans for the future. And as far as her portrait, whether she'll ever finish it, I'm sure she will at some point too, just because for her own enjoyment, because she relished that challenge of painting the Duchess. So yeah, I mean, not necessarily for the Duchess, but for herself. And then, but she would give it to the Duchess, I'm sure. But you know what I mean. So, So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Let's see, what else do you guys want to know about this book? Let's see. Hi, everybody. Yes. Lady Beerson, how about maybe? She does play a big role, well, a role in book 10. So, because it's Charlotte's wedding, she's of course going to be there for Charlotte. So, when I was reading about the church abbey in this book, I didn't recognize the religion mentioned something like, oh, yeah. So there was different types of religious houses. It wasn't just Benedictine, I mean, there's like a whole bunch of different ones, and I'm now forgetting it is Search of the P that this is. It's basically just different branches of Catholicism, like, and they had different beliefs or ideas of what they should be doing within the monastery. So that's basically what it comes down to. I mean, you can look up all the different branches. I don't even know. I think there's at least 4 or 5 different types, like within England itself, even England, Scotland, that they had. Because there in this area, there's lots of abbeys and monasteries also. So there's littered with ruins and lots, to work with. Yeah, I'm blanking on what it is. It does start with a P. But like, it was basically just like, some of them were about doing good works and going out. Some of them were about, let's stay in, and we focus on reflection and prayer. I mean, it was basically just different. They followed a different, what's the right word? It was just a different sect basically within that Catholicism. The monastery communities, they followed a different leader that usually gave the name to it. So like Benedict, Benedictine. So anyway, that's not a definitive answer there, but that's, again, hopefully that explains it just a little briefly. So yeah, prepaid postage. Yes, definitely. Frankie was prepaid postage. Love to hear about the holidays that they celebrated. Oh, yes. So I know it's so much fun to research the holidays and things, because what they celebrated was different than what we celebrated, even though they were largely Christian. So Twelfth Night was a big holiday in the Middle Ages, and then it kind of waxed and waned a little bit, and it became big again in the 19th century. It was just a fun holiday. It was just a way of flipping around, the wealthy and the servants, and they kind of took it over to themselves and just made fun of themselves. And so it was just a fun holiday, and it was celebrating the 12 days of Christmas that they had always celebrated. They didn't just celebrate Christmas Day for a long period of time. It was the whole feast. And I mean, getting anywhere was so hard. So it was a house party. It was extended, so it was a way of wrapping it up, I guess you would say. And it also falls on Epiphany. So it's that same, religious calendar, but working in their feasts and festivals. And the other thing was that in Scotland, Hogmanay, New Year's Eve, was the bigger holiday than Christmas for a long, long time. Even in this period was their main holiday. They celebrated Christmas, but it was solemn. It was church and, whatever. They gave their gifts on Hogmanay, and they gave their days off to their servants and the gifts to their servants on Hansel Day, which was the first Monday of the new year. Whereas in England, they did it on Boxing Day, which is the 26th day after Christmas. So, because they celebrated Christmas as their main holiday. So there was a little bit of a difference in across the border. So, and Kira, of course, has an English father and a Scottish mother. And so she's kind of, all of these traditions, have played a role. Not to mention the fact that you were an aristocrat, a Scottish aristocrat, you were still beholden to the, English, British way. So you kind of integrated all of that. So those were their big winter holidays. So yeah. So if that's what you're asking. So they're a lot of fun to research though, because I mean, they did things differently. I mean, Guy Fawkes Night is November 5th, that was something else they celebrated that was getting closer to winter. So yeah. Is there a reason there wasn't a historical note at the end? So sometimes I always try to do a historical note, and sometimes it's time. I just run out of time. I have to get it turned in, and then I forget about it or falls off my plate, which is awful. Or it's that I didn't have a ton of notes to make about it, and so I just let it slide. But it's usually that I've run out of time and then I forgot about it, and then it's like by the time I remember and nobody reminds me at the publisher, then it's like, well, too late. I guess if I have one, I'll post it to my website. And I do have a few historical notes posted to my website from books that I've forgotten, or it's have a note that I wanted to add later or things like that. So so you have a couple more minutes if you have any more questions. I'm loving hearing what you guys want to hear about. So next month, we are doing the last month 11 of the read along, and it'll be book 9, obviously, A Wicked Conceit, to the buildup of the release of book 10. So this is exciting. So March 17th will be our virtual event at 8 o'clock like normal. And then almost a month later on April 19th will be book 10. And I'm so excited for y'all to read it. I'm super excited that we got to number 10, which I'm just, when you first start writing, you hope that you will have a series that lasts this long. I first started writing Lady Darby, but you just never know. You never know. If it doesn't get picked up by readers, if they don't get invested in it, if the publisher doesn't invest in it, all those things, it just doesn't happen. And so I'm so extremely grateful that you guys have fallen in love with Lady Darby and Gage and everyone, and embrace the series, and that you get excited, and it just makes me so excited. And I hope she keeps going for a long time. So, but to get to number 10 is just, it's awesome. I'm just super grateful and very happy. So I'm hoping for, yeah, I'm going to celebrate big. I've told myself you have to celebrate big, because sometimes I let the day slide and then it's like, why didn't I do something, to really celebrate this? So I got to think of what I'm doing though. Yay, I'm so glad you guys are excited. The next chat is March 17th at 8 o'clock, and it's on my website. I always put everything on my website. If you ever have any questions about my events, on the events page, there will be listed all the events. Also, I am starting to post my events for the release of A Perilous Perspective in April. So if you're curious what I'll be doing, I have a few virtual events. I'll have a few more that I'll be coming and adding, but I'm adding them slowly to my website. And I actually have a few in-person events. So they're kind of there's just a few. It just happens to be that where I'm traveling and going to be. So, and most of those events will be virtual and in person. So if you're not comfortable being in person, then you're more than welcome. Please join virtually. So, but I'm super excited to get to see some readers again. So yay, I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. So I don't see any more questions, but I've, got y'all hyped ready for next month. So me too. So this has been great. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful night.